In this video, I'm going to tell you 19 things that I wish I knew before I started contracting about 5 years ago. If you will listen to these things, no matter where you're at in your journey, but especially if you're new, it will cut years and years off the amount of time it takes you to be successful. Starting off with number one, your skills suck. All right, when I say that, I don't mean it in a mean way at all. You're probably thinking, if you're anything like me, what can I do now? All right, and when I finished up college and I was getting ready to start my business, I'm thinking, what are the skills I have? How can I make money now? This was a short-sighted way to think. I was in my early 20s at the time, and I'm trying to get rich right now. I was like, you have your whole life to live, all right? Don't think about the skills you have now. Think about the skills you could attain, and then think about starting a business. So I started a flooring company back then. If I had had the wisdom to see that, like, oh, dude, you spend your whole life doing that? Like, no, I'm gonna branch out. I'm gonna learn a bunch of new stuff. I probably would have gotten into a different type of business if I had had more of a long-term view and not been so focused on what do I know now? How can I make money right now? Go learn some new skills that you want to learn, things you actually like to do, and then start the business. 2, the law of the big fish, all right? Nobody taught this to me. I had to teach it to myself. I learned it the hard way. I opened up a hardwood flooring business, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have the biggest hardwood flooring business in the U.S. Stupid goal, but we'll get to that later. After being in business for a couple of years and struggling to ever get that big, I started to look around. I was like, man, I see all these big plumbing companies. I see these huge HVAC companies. I'm listening to dudes on podcasts that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in other businesses. Well, I'm not even at $1 million. I'm struggling to even get by. And I'm working pretty hard, and I'm a pretty smart entrepreneur, I think. And this is what leads me to the law of the big fish. When you look around and you're trying to determine if your idea is going to make you successful or not, there's this famous quote by Warren Buffett. What he says is, it's not about how hard you row, it's about the boat you are in. So if you pick a good opportunity, you can be successful even if you're not that good of an entrepreneur. But if you pick a bad opportunity, you're going to be much less successful. I was guilty a little bit of this. There's no big hardwood flooring companies. And you know why? Because it's very hard to get rich doing hardwood flooring. I did not have the wisdom to see this when I started my flooring company. There's no big hardwood companies. I have 6 people who work for me, and I am a big hardwood company, which is laughable. All right, there's many companies out there that only have one guy. Like, that is the industry standard, is one guy for a hardwood flooring company and like a part-time helper that gets paid $10.99. If you look at other industries, though, like, you're going to see a lot of really successful HVAC guys, plumbers. There's big excavation companies, really big roofing companies. You're not going to see big tile guys, though, like, not very often at least. You're not going to see really big trim carpenter companies, all right? These are clues as to what is hard to scale and what's easy to scale. We're going to get to whether you should even try to scale down below. But the truth is, if you don't have a lot of passion for something and you look around and you see that nobody's doing that well, and when I say that well, I mean a really big, thriving company with lots of employees, new vans, a great website, benefits for the employees, then stay away from that, all right? If you don't have passion for it, you definitely shouldn't pick it because it's going to be really hard. Number 3, if it's visible, you're going to deal with Karens. I want you to think of a tile setter versus a plumber for this one. Your plumber comes in, he puts his pipes in the wall, comes back at the end, sets his fixtures. As long as he's pretty careful and nothing leaks, that plumber's not going to get a whole lot of complaints. Maybe he damages something on a final putting stuff in. Like, those are the sort of complaints I would imagine. Now, think about your tile guy. He comes in, and a lot of the work is already done. The house is about finished. And then he goes, he sets all his tiles. He tries to be really careful, but some of them are just, a little bit off. And the homeowner can see all of them, all right? Who's going to get more complaints? The guy with the visible work. He's going to get way more complaints. So if you are in the finishes business, you're going to get way, way, way more complaints than if you are doing work that gets buried, all right? It's just a law, and you're not going to get around it. So make sure that you keep this in mind when you're picking your trade. Number 4, scaling equals stupid. Now, do I really mean this for everybody? Absolutely not. But you get in a business and you just want to scale, 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 all right? Why do you want to scale? Are you really trying to get away from doing the work that badly? If you are, it sounds to me like you hate the work, all right? If you hate the work, why are you starting a business where you hate the work yourself? How are you going to sell future employees on why they should do the work when you hate it. If you don't want to do it small, what makes you think you want to do it big? It's going to be very hard for you to sell because you're not going to have any passion about the product. And that's both to customers and employees, because you got to sell to the customers to get the work, and you got to sell to prospective employees to get them to work for you. You need both. Number 5, if it's won on price, it will be lost on price, all right? I'm talking mostly about repeat customers here. When I came in, I was cheap. I was really cheap. I would beat other companies' prices, and I would price match. People liked me fairly well, so it worked, and I got business like this. And when these people would call me back 2 years later after I raised my prices like double, none of them, and I mean none of them, would hire me back on the second time, because they had hired me in the first place because my price was low. They were not shopping on quality. They didn't care about anything but the price. So when you come in, most of you are not going to be able to charge a lot in the beginning. Let's be real, you're not that good. You shouldn't charge that much. Go in, work for cheap, get your reviews, but just understand you're gonna need to raise your prices, and I encourage that, all right? And when you do, the old customers that call you back will not hire you again. Whenever I hear an old customer has called us back for a quote, I always ask, how old is it, all right? And if I know that it's like hasn't been that long and like, oh yeah, we were pretty expensive then, I know, okay, we'll probably get that job. But I know if this is like back when I first started, I know we're not getting that job. It's like, all right, well, you're wasting your time, but go do an estimate for them. We gotta do that. All right, number 6. Get paid to promote yourself. I do not know why I didn't start doing this earlier. I get paid to be on YouTube, all right? You go look up my channel, Lumberjack Hardwood, and I'm working on starting another one. But we get a lot of views. People love to watch the construction process. They love to watch us transform things. And I get paid anywhere from, on a bad month, I get paid $1,000, and on our best month ever, we got $4,500 to make videos promoting our services on YouTube because people like to watch it. If you're in the trades, people want to watch what you do. And if you take a little time to get good at making videos, this is the best way to get leads that I'm aware of. I started about 2 years ago, and we got our channel up to 151,000 subscribers. I could go on and on about how to do that better. But guys, you gotta be promoting yourself on social media, especially YouTube. YouTube long format videos are the best, and that's mostly what we're focusing on. But if you can even do short video, if not, just do pictures, all right? People wanna see your work. The best leads that I get, they come from YouTube, all right? And the second best come from our other social media platforms. And this takes us into number 7, what I like to call $1 million leads. Just made that up for the video. But the concept is this. There are certain leads that are gonna make you rich, and there's certain leads that are gonna make you poor, all right? Let's compare to one, ring, ring, ring. Hey, I got your number from such and such down the street. Wealthy client, all right? We'd like you to come out and do a project for us, all right? They're already talking like you're hired, and the other customer is a really good customer who referred you. That's a great lead. Like, you better give that lead some attention. I would put several other lead sources in here, all right? Number 1 is referrals from good customers, all right? Number 2 is the leads I get off of like YouTube and social media. People who have researched us and who are pre-sold that we do a really good job. They're willing to pay more. And then after that, I would put, Google profile and website. People who are looking at our reviews saying, these people do great work, all right? Those are the best sources for us. Now, let's look at the worst sources. Google Ads. If you're in a business like mine where you're selling on quality and you're charging a lot more, which if you're in the finishes business, you got to do this because you can't compete with Lowe's, you can't compete with these cheap discount retailers. And if they're getting on Google and just typing in whatever service you offer and then clicking on all the first things, calling them and asking for an estimate, which is what people are doing when they're clicking on that Google ad most of the time, those people are not people who are doing their research. They're not reading your reviews. They're not looking at your website or your socials. They're just calling. And they're gonna be cheap almost every single time. For me, I've tracked it enough. I have to spend about $20 on ads to get $100 worth of work. Now, this is probably really good if you're in a product-based business where you could just deliver endlessly. But the amount we can deliver is limited by the amount of people who work here and the amount of time we have. So we cannot afford to spend $20 to get $100 worth of work. They did not work for me. I've probably spent $50,000 on them. I would not do it again for this current business model. The next place that always brings me bad leads every time is Angie's Leads, formerly known as Home Advisor. another group of price shopping people who just want the cheapest price. The cheap leads, they will oftentimes ask questions like, hey, are estimates free? If that's the first thing they want to know, I heard a guy say, the only people I charge for estimates are those who ask if it's free. I've only done this a time or two with people, but honestly, it's true. Learn to recognize a good versus a bad lead and treat them accordingly. Number 8, pay for passion, all right? There are some people who start a business and it just takes off, and there's some people who start a business and just kind of seems to spin tires. And I think a lot of times what's missing is that passion element, all right? If you're really obsessed with what you do and you want to do it in the best way and you really care about the customer getting the best product, that comes through in how happy people are, how many people they will tell. Then when you go to promote yourself, if you get on socials and you're somebody who's super passionate about what you do, that is just magnetic, and you get followers, you get people who want to do business with you. If you're not passionate about what you do, life is short, find something else. This brings me to number 9, charge 3x. Charge 3x means there's somebody out there, and maybe they're not even in your market, but they're charging 3 times as much as you are. All right, this is very hard to believe. I understand, you're thinking, no way. Yes, I'm telling you, all right? I didn't believe it myself. I've doubled my prices, all right? I make way more money now, and life is much better. There's a way to do it. You need to figure out how they're doing it. What are they doing that's different than you, all right? Part of it is they perceive themselves as being worth more in their work, all right? Figure this out now. Don't wait. Figure it out now so you can raise your prices. You need to raise your prices. If you're not rich, raise your prices. Number 10, what are you actually saying? All right. Every bit of you when you show up to an estimate, every bit of your company that drives down the interstate in a van, all of the uniform, all of the marketing, it is all saying something. And it is usually either saying we're trustworthy, high quality, worth a lot, or it's saying we're cheap, don't trust us. All right. So having good uniforms, all right, having friendly people answer the phones, having vans that look good, if they can be wrapped really nicely, that's a major plus. Having your estimator show up in a nice car with a box of donuts for the customer, leaving nice materials there. Every part of your company is saying a lot about you, saying what you're all about. And you need to go through all of these details and you need to get them in order, all right? Study branding. This is what branding is. Number 10, little jobs equals you poor, okay? For a while, I would only take jobs down to about $1,500, all right? You know, I got to make all these trips. I still got all this same amount of work that I do with a bigger job for a little job. I've now raised that. I'll do like $2,500, and if we're a little light on work, maybe I'll drop it down. But little jobs oftentimes come with as much headache as big jobs, the same complaints, the same ordering of materials, all right? You need to set minimums in place to where you are not doing a bunch of little jobs. In the beginning, do the jobs, get the reviews, that's fine. But once you're established, you need to start limiting yourself from doing little jobs. Like I said, now $2,500 minimum project for us, and we still don't make that much money on those. You have to track to know that though. Number 12, you are the number one problem, all right? If you read any leadership books by John Maxwell, you're gonna hear of the law of the lid. That is that the organization will grow until it reaches your potential as a leader. Whatever problems you have in your personal life, they're gonna be reflected in your employees and in your business. So as you develop yourself, the company will grow. If you're stuck at a low level, just know your personal development is stuck at a low level, and there is something in you that you are not addressing or not developing that is keeping your company from growing. Number 13, only 2 things matter when it comes to growing your business. What do I mean by that? There's a million parts of business, all right? I'm gonna tell you that's not my experience, all right? The first thing that matters is making the right big decisions, all right? There's probably 10 big decisions you make every year. You need to make the right ones. This is going to be things like, I need to hire a manager. I need to spend a huge chunk of money to get a good website going. I need to hire somebody to film videos for us. These sort of things that cost a lot of money. These are the decisions that really move the needle. And the second thing is consistency. This encompasses all those little pieces of the business. This is showing up every day, doing the little things right. These 2 things, if you do them right, your business will grow. And this takes me to the big decisions and now, all right? I think the branding, I waited 9 months for it. I think the website, it was like a 7-month rollout, both very expensive. And decisions like this, these are the big decisions I'm talking about, number 13. Not only do you have to make the right ones, do it now, all right? Stop waiting. Bite those bullets. Hire the expensive person, all right? Pay for the expensive website. Make those big, long-term decisions right now. If there's one thing I could go back and change in how I've ran my business, I would have made all those decisions way, way sooner. Number 15, ask someone now, all right? There's some guys in my local area who are a little younger than me, and they've been starting out on their own, getting going in contracting, and I want to help them, all right? They called me up about things unrelated to helping them, and they're telling me a little bit about the business and whatnot. It's like, you don't know anything, dude. Like, I would love to help you. Oh yeah, I know this person. You should talk to them. Here's my insurance lady, all right? Okay, when you do the estimate, do it this way. I would give them all sorts of advice because I like to do that, all right? But they don't ever ask anything, all right? They're smart guys, and I imagine I'm figuring it out on my own. I don't need any help. And I'm not mocking them, all right? But I think that is what goes on. But if they asked me, I could say, hey, instead of going all the way around like this and just taking the long route, I could show you a straighter path. It's not a shortcut, but I could just keep you from going down all of those unnecessary dead-end streets. There is somebody out there who's doing what you've done. Ask them, all right? Say, hey, how can I speed up my journey? Here's what I'm doing. What could I do better? Number 16, broaden your world, all right? People finish college or they finish trade school, whatever, they get in a trade, and then they stop learning. This is wild to me, all right? Why don't you just keep learning your whole life? Why don't you study other trades? If you're just a subcontractor right now, why don't you study and get your builder's license, all right? This is what I'm doing. I broaden my world. I started out just doing flooring. I didn't even know what was inside a wall, all right? I'd be shooting trim on. I wasn't even shooting it onto the studs because I didn't know how the walls were built. That is pathetic, right? It's hilarious, honestly, but it's worked out for me, all right? And now I've got my builder's license. I've done some pretty big projects now. Everyone says life is short, but their career feels long to them. That's why they can't wait to retire at 65. So why don't you keep learning? That's what keeps us sharp, all right? Become sharper. Learn as many trades as you can, all right? Maybe you go to school to be an architect. You could get so good in your lifetime if you keep on learning and you keep on developing. Do this, all right? Number 17, products beat services. Every single time, they beat them, all right? When someone calls me up and says, hey, I've got this flooring, will you install it? We never get the job, never, because they're not buying a product from me, all right? They're just buying a service. They don't want anything special from Lumberjack. They just want a dude to come out and nail the floor in, all right? When they hire Lumberjack, though, to give them a Lumberjack floor, that's a product, all right? A Lumberjack floor is something that they want. Whereas if they've got their own materials, they're just after a service. Now, this doesn't mean you need to start packaging up your pipes and selling them if you're a plumber. This means your services need to be packaged in a way that people aren't just buying the installation of a toilet or the installation of some trim, all right? If you're into trim, you need to start having your own custom moldings and stuff and your own intricate and interesting ways that you install them. This works for every business. You may think it doesn't work for yours, but you just haven't figured it out yet. Keep looking. If you can add legitimate like physical products, as a lot of times your finished trades guys can do this. So if you're in tile, you can have a showroom with tile in it. If you're into trim, you could have a showroom, all right? You should do this, all right? Because you can make 30 percentage points on that stuff. Number 18, big thinking is holding you back, all right? I'm a big thinker. I think really, really big. But a lot of times I lack the humility to take the small little step. Yeah, I want to build the tallest tower in the world, but I don't have the world's biggest excavator to get going with. And I struggle with having too much pride to get out there with a hand shovel and a wheelbarrow and start scooping that dirt up to dig the foundation. So do I really mean don't think big? Of course not. What I mean is that you gotta be willing to do the lowly work. That minimum wage labor, sometimes you need to get out there and you need to do it because that's what's holding you back from your big vision. And guys, number 19, stop listening to Alex Hormozi. Now, what do I mean by this? Because this guy has a lot of good advice. If you're anything like me and you're on here watching videos, seeing what other guys think because you want to expand your mind and find a faster way to get ahead, you listen to guys like Alex Hormozi. And I think he has a lot of good advice, all right? But the reason I put him on here, and this is not to single him out, is because I don't actually want his life, all right? If you listen to his stuff, he doesn't go see his family. He seems to only work. it just sounds boring to me. And while he's super smart and he has good advice for a lot of people probably, it's not for me. And you need to pick some people that you actually want to be like. And when I say that, I mean, look at the full spectrum of their life. You need to think about family life, spiritual life, fitness life. And you need to try to find models that fit those different roles and see what they have to say. Because if you listen to people who you don't actually want to become like, it's going to lead you down paths that make you someone you don't want to be. And guys, because somebody is rich and saying, well, I want to be rich, so I should listen to them, that is not good enough reason on its own to listen to somebody. So if you're trying to grow a construction business, you need to find entrepreneurs in the construction space that live a life like you want to live. You need to listen to them, and you need to tune everybody else out, because they're going to lead you down a bunch of paths that you don't want to go down towards somebody you don't want to become. Whatever problems you're having in your business, I want to know what they are down in the comments so I can make content to help you with it. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you like this video, maybe you'll like the one popping up on your screen. Watch it now.